Well, we finally made it. It's opening day. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. And I'm so excited to have a baseball team control my emotions for the next 6 months. Now, what I want to do today is get into a little bit of a series matchup between the Astros and the Mets. Obviously, first series of the year. We don't know how everything's going to go, but the Astros are a team that has a track record. They've changed a little bit throughout this offseason. They've lost some big players, Bregman and Tucker most notably. But they still have some good players. And they also called up a guy in Cam Smith, who's a really young, exciting player. We know how much the Mets struggle against guys like that in the past. So I could definitely see Cam Smith being a big key in this series for the Astros. But first, what I want to do is get into some of the starting pitching matchups. Obviously, game one, the Mets have Clay Holmes going. We don't know what we're going to get out of Holmes. Obviously, he had a great spring, made everyone excited. Personally, I think he's going to be really good this season. I think he's a guy who might turn into a number one pitcher. Now, you have to understand he's not going to pitch 200 innings. That's just not probably going to be possible this year in the regular season. But, as long as he doesn't tire himself out too early, I could definitely see him going really far and becoming a really good pitcher this year. And maybe having a good pitcher for years to come as a starter. So the first game, it's Clay Holmes against Framber Valdez. Framber Valdez is one of the top pitchers in baseball, especially one of the top left-handed pitchers in baseball. Not a huge strikeout guy, but a ground ball pitcher, gets outs, pitches deep into games. He's a really good pitcher, and the Mets are going to have their hands full with him. Obviously, we don't know how everything's going to work out, but the Mets have the type of offense that can compete against any pitcher. So I'm not necessarily worried about the other team's pitcher at all during this season, because I think the Mets can just hit against anyone. Great hitters can hit against great pitchers. Now, you're not going to get the best of them all the time. Sometimes they'll shut you out. Anything can happen, but I don't think they're at a disadvantage ever, no matter who they're facing. If you look at game two, you're going to have McGill going against probably Hunter Brown. It hasn't been officially announced yet who the starter is going to be on game two for the Astros, but it's probably going to be Hunter Brown. It's reported that it's going to be him. Another guy, really good pitcher, really solid pitcher, gets a lot of ground balls. He's just a really solid number two starter for the Astros. And we have to be careful with, McGill's going in game two, and everybody's talking about how bad the Mets pitching staff is because they see McGill as the number two starter. He's not the number two starter. It's just the way it's breaking down. They're setting up the home opener. They're setting up, they're just setting up the series going forward. They're also giving Senga a little more time to make sure that he's healthy and ready to go for the season. So, yes, you look at it on paper and you say McGill is the number two starter. That rotation must be terrible. It's just the way it's working out. It's just the way that they're, lining things up for the start of the season. McGill, obviously, you kind of never know what you're going to get from McGill. Sometimes he can look great. Sometimes he can look terrible. Sometimes he can go 3 innings and look great, and then in the 4th inning implode. But I think he has good stuff, and I know it's hard, and Met fans, we've seen it for like 4 years now with McGill, and we're sick of him. But this really is probably going to be his last chance, and hopefully he does something with it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not super confident with McGill against this lineup, which is still pretty tough, even though they've lost a couple players. We'll see how it goes. Not sold on McGill, but I trust him a little bit, and I kind of hate even saying that. I kind of trust McGill this season a little bit, and it's a little scary to me. I don't know why I trust him, but I do. Now you get into Game 3. No starter has been announced yet for the Astros. They have a couple options. They've also had a couple injuries in the rotation, so we're not exactly sure who's going to go Game 3. But for the Mets, it's going to be Griffin Canning. Who knows with Griffin Canning? He's really been a bad starting pitcher the last couple years. He has not been good. But in spring, he's looked really good. Maybe that Stearns pitching lab and that Jeremy Hefner influence has helped him. He's moving into a new league, into the National League, where maybe not as many guys know him. I don't think that matters as much anymore because you do have all the analytics and you have all the film and the tape, and they're watching film in between innings. And I don't know that matters as much. I know a lot of older baseball fans say, moving to a new league, the guys are going to see him for the first time, or they don't have much experience against him. I don't know how much that really matters anymore. But he has looked good this spring. I'm keeping an open mind with Canning. I'm not thrilled that he's going to be pitching in the opening weekend, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's what we have with the injuries that we have, so we'll see what he does. If he gives us 5 innings and gives up 2 or 3 runs, 3 runs over 5 innings, that's all we kind of need out of him, because the offense should be good enough to score more than that. The offense should be good enough to score 5 or 6 runs, so if he gives up 3 runs in 5 innings, that's fine. That's really all I got on the pitching side of things. There's not much to it because the Astros haven't really, other than opening day, haven't announced who their 2 and 3 starters are going to be. But if you look at the Astros lineup, even after losing Kyle Tucker, and Bregman, they're still very formidable. Obviously, you still have Altuve up at the top. They added Christian Walker. You have Yordan Alvarez, Isaac Paredes. You have guys there who can hit. Now, they're not a mashing team. They have a couple of power guys, but really it's Yordan Alvarez that you have to worry about with power. And then they have a lot of really good players in their lineup. So I don't think their lineup is going to be as crazy as it was years past, but they definitely have some players there that you can't let beat you. Obviously, Cam Smith getting the call-up, he's going to be tough to deal with. The Mets always struggle against rookies and young guys who are athletic and steal bases and just overall, when they don't have film on a guy, it seems like they always struggle against them. You see it with Churio. You've seen it, you've just seen it in the past with the Mets. They always struggle against a guy like that, and those guys are always the ones that seem to kind of break your heart or do something late in the game that really kills it for you. Hopefully that's not the case. We'll see. I think he might be the key for them this season. It's a lot of similarities to like the Yankees, right? The Yankees have Dominguez, who is kind of the key to their season, this young guy who you don't know what you're going to get out of him. And he can either be great and, propel your offense and propel you to being a really good offense, or they could struggle as a rookie and not do so well. So I think Cam Smith is going to be a big key for them in their lineup. Obviously, you have the stars in Altuve and Yordan Alvarez and Christian Walker. I'm not so scared of Christian Walker. I think he's a really good player. But overall, I think you can get him out with good pitching. So their lineup is good, not as good as the past. Now, if you look over on the other side, obviously, we know what the Mets lineup is going to be for the most part, right? We just got the word yesterday that Acuna has made the roster. It seems like they were searching for another right-handed bat so that they didn't have to carry him on the roster because he's probably not going to get that much playing time. What I will say is most likely on opening day, in my opinion, he's probably going to play. You're facing a left-handed pitcher in Valdez, so you want to get the righty out there. Now, maybe they give Beatty the start because of the spring that he had, because he kind of earned that starting spot with McNeil out. So I could see Beatty still being the opening day starter, even though there's a lefty. But if they're going to go true platoon, you'd have to put Acuna in today. Obviously, that puts Marte in the lineup as well if it's going to be a true platoon at DH. Winker's a lefty, Marte's a righty, so with a left-handed pitcher going, you think Marte's in the lineup. Now, if you look at the rest of the lineup, it's what they've already been going with. You have, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo. Now, the Nimmo and Vientos might switch because you're going against a lefty. Maybe they want to drop Nimmo down in the lineup a little bit. Maybe then Vientos goes into the cleanup spot. I don't know. I think for opening day at least, they're probably going to go with their best lineup. So we'll see what happens, but maybe that we don't know necessarily what the lineup exactly will be like. All right, now I want to get into what I think are the biggest keys for the Mets in this series and maybe even for the season. So the first big key is their starting pitching. That's been the topic of conversation all over sports media. Do the Mets have enough in their rotation to compete this year? to really be a team that takes the next step. Now, I argue that they probably do. Obviously, the pitching lab has been great, and we have some guys injured who are going to be coming back. So I think that they do probably have enough starting pitching. But we're going to see how it works out this weekend. We have a good showing of what our pitching is, at least our bottom-end guys, other than Clay Holmes, who we think could be a top-end guy. So we have to see if Clay Holmes can continue what he did this spring, and we have to see if he could pitch deep into a game. Now, I'm not expecting him to go 7-8 innings, but if he can go 5 innings, maybe 6, then it shows you that maybe he is stretched out enough. He can compete as a starting pitcher. If he's going 2 or 3 innings and having an issue going deep into games, then we might have a problem. Also, you have to see what you have with McGill and Canning. Early in the season, until Manaya's back, and then later on until Montas is back, or maybe until Sproat comes up, you're going to be relying on these guys. And they have to at least be decent. They don't have to be great. They don't have to be an ace, but they have to keep you in the game, and they have to be able to, the offense should score. So it's not like they have to give up 1 run over 7 innings. If they can just be decent back end of the rotation kind of pitchers, then the Mets can still weather this storm until they get healthy, or maybe until the trade deadline, and I think they'll be fine. But that's one of the biggest keys for this series to watch, and also for the season going forward. Another big key is, while the Astros lineup is very good, it's not as good as it has been in the past. They've lost some pieces. So there's really 2 guys in that lineup that you can't let beat you, and that's Altuve and that's Yordan Alvarez. Altuve gets on base. He's a pest. He gets big hits. He's a clutch player. And then Alvarez obviously is a big masher, and he hits a lot of home runs. And he really is one of the best, most underrated players in baseball. So if you can keep those guys from beating you, I think you can be successful against this team. Their lineup is still pretty good. It's just those 2 guys are kind of a cut above. Those are their stars. If you can keep them from beating you, you can be okay. All right, I think the final key is the Mets offense. They need to go out there and mash. They need to go out and show, what we've all said from the beginning. This is going to be a strong hitting team. This is going to be a great offense. We need guys like Lindor to get off to a hotter start. We need Soto to show that he deserved that contract. We need Pete and Vientos and Nimmo and all these guys to really hit and show what they can do. At their best, this is a great offense. This might be the best offense in baseball. Definitely top 3. So if they can go out there and mash and show that they are that great offense, then we'll be more confident in this season. If they go out and do it in this first series, we're going to say, okay, this is what we thought they would be. And then at that point, if your pitching struggles, if your starting pitching or bullpen struggles a little bit, you can still get by just by clobbering teams. And I think that's what we have to see this first weekend. We have to see them come out and really hit and show what they can do with the bats. And that's really it. I think those are the big 3 keys. Hey, it's opening day. We don't know very much, right? I plan on doing these videos more going forward, during the season when they start a new series. But there's not a ton of information. Obviously, we're going off spring training and what they've done in years past. So that's really all I got. If you're still here, you like this kind of content, you want to see more of these going forward, please subscribe, give me a like, comment what you think the keys are to the Mets this season or in this series. And until next time, let's go Mets.